planning to retire to Florida in 2025, here are 10 things to consider as you're planning your move. Let's get into it. So the first thing we want to tackle is healthcare accessibility. When you're retiring, you want to make sure that you know where you're going to go for healthcare. You're going to want to know where the hospitals are. You're going to want to know where the clinics are. If you're a veteran, you want to know where the VA hospitals are, the VA clinics. All of those things are considerations when you're making a plan to move from another state and relocate and retire in Florida. And so I know that in our area, Tampa Bay, we have some great hospitals. We have Advent Health Orlando. We have Orlando Healthcare. We have, let's see here, USF Health, which is a teaching hospital, by the way. So they are top notch. We have Lakeland Regional Health and Tampa General Hospital, which Tampa General Hospital and USF actually work together. They're part of the whole teaching hospital thing. And so the care there is fantastic. But wherever it is you decide to move to in the state of Florida, you want to make sure that you have available health care. You want to make sure that you do all your research ahead of time and make sure that you know whether or not you're going to be covered in your health insurance, your PPO, whatever the case may be. So the first consideration would be accessibility to healthcare and making sure that the place that you're looking at living in, if it's a small community, is close enough for you to feel like you're not going to have to, have an emergency and then not be able to get the care that you need, or you're going to have to drive for hours to get the care that you need. That would suck. Now, number two is housing options. Housing options are going to really depend on your finances, really. So there are going to be some seniors that have to have homes that are under a certain price point. And there are some cities that just don't have the availability of those price points in homes that you would want to live in. So to give you an example, over the past few years, the Tampa Bay and the Orlando markets have skyrocketed. So what used to be a median sales price for home in Tampa or Orlando was around 300, maybe to 350. Now in Tampa, it's up to about 500,000 for median sales price, and Orlando is right behind it at like 485. And so if you're looking at retiring, granted, those homes may not be appropriate for you because they have more bedrooms and more baths than what you're looking for. But when you're looking at homes that are under 300 or, God forbid, under 200, now you have the disadvantage of homes that would have been in the 60 to 80, maybe $110,000 range, have gone up in value so high that a home that's really a shack that seems like it's falling apart is 175, 200,000, areas like that. Now, other areas, whether it's up in North Florida or in the center of the state where I'm at in Central Florida, you can find homes in the 200, 250, below $300,000 range, 2-bedroom, 2-bath homes that are really nice and good shape that, would be appropriate for you if you're looking at that as a consideration. Now, if that's not a consideration, if you've got your finances set and you're looking for a home that's going to be comparable in a lot of ways to the home that you're leaving in whatever state you're coming from, that's going to be a completely different story because now you have a lot more options. And when it comes to housing in in the Florida market, not just Tampa Bay, but all over Florida, the homes themselves are going to be a lot alike. There's going to be a lot of similarities. So as a realtor, when I'm working with a buyer that says, well, I want this type of home and I don't think I can find it anywhere but in this city, I don't agree with that. Because overall, homes in Florida tend to be about the same. You're going to find that home that you're looking for as far as the style of the home, as far as, the facade, as far as, what you're looking at in terms of the architecture. You can find those homes anywhere. The first thing you've really got to consider is where do you want to live? What city do you want to live? What kind of community do you want to be in? But bear in mind that affordability depends on, of course, your financial status and where you're at. There are going to be affordable homes all over the state, especially in our area in Central Florida, especially in the Polk County area where I live. We can definitely find you a place that is in either fantastic shape or brand new. There's some homes in Lake Wales that are under 275,000 that are brand new homes. So, those are things that you want to consider as you start looking at housing options. Now, the next thing to consider, number 3, is cost of living. Even though Florida has no state income tax, still the cost of everything has gone up. So whether it's property taxes, homeowners insurance, auto insurance, utilities, everything has gone up. And that's something you really want to consider, and especially property taxes. Those can vary from county to county, city to city. And so you want to make sure that wherever it is you're thinking about living, it's not going to be over bloated. I know that for us in Polk County, our property taxes are low. I know that in other counties in the state, especially in North Florida, property taxes are very low. But I also know that in Palm Beach and Broward, it's high. Tampa is high. Orlando is high. So you want to make sure that when it comes to the cost of living, the city matches the finances that you're bringing with you, because you don't want to end up in a situation where you feel like, man, every time I get my check at the end of the month, it's gone. And you want to be able to have a little cush. You want to be able to, have a little fun, do the things you enjoy doing. Now, when it comes to things like living on the coast, there's another consideration there too, and that is flood insurance. Flood insurance has gone through the roof as well, and flood insurance is something that goes up periodically, sometimes year over year. And so if you're wanting to buy a home, say, on the Gulf Coast, or on the East Coast in Daytona, or on the Gulf Coast in say Clearwater or St. Pete, the closer you are to the coast, the more you're going to get hit by flood insurance. Even sometimes buying a home on a lake can cause you to have to pay flood insurance if you're not careful of what home you choose and what the elevation is, so that you don't end up having to pay flood insurance. So that's another consideration. All of these things together can either make it really hard for you to be able to live in Florida, or if you plan ahead and really know where you're wanting to go and what things are going to cost you the most money in those locations, it'll make moving to Florida much easier, much easier. All right, so number 5 is community support and social opportunities. There are a lot of seniors that really want to live in a community of other seniors, so 55 plus communities, communities that are kind of set apart from everything else. Maybe they're gated, maybe they have certain amenities, but they're wanting to be around like-minded and like-aged people. Now, there are other of my customers personally, that don't want to live in a 55 plus community. They feel like being in that community doesn't help them to thrive. They want to be around younger people. They want to have other things to do, or they just want to be closer to family. So you really have to decide, is a 55 plus community going to fulfill you as far as your social needs? Do you feel like that's going to be a good thing for you? And if not, do you think living in a regular subdivision is going to be a better way for you to go? I know that when it comes to large 55 plus communities here in the area where I'm in Polk County, in Point Siena, there is a 5,000 or 6,000 acre community called Solavita. And I've helped people buy homes in there. And the community is fantastic. It has pretty much everything that you need. You don't really have to go a whole lot of places. There's grocery shopping and entertainment. There's all kinds of stuff. And the homes are at a decent price point. I'm not going to say that they're cheap, because they're not, but it's a gated community. And you have a lot of really cool stuff that you can do there. Now, I've got customers that don't really want that. They want to live on their own in a regular community, or they want to live out in the country, or whatever the case may be. It's really going to be up to you. But that's a consideration that you need to look at because, you know, when you're moving from out of state to a place like Florida, there's all kinds of stuff that you can get into. And if you're like my wife and I, we love to socialize, but we do all of our socializing through our church. And so that might be something that you may want to look at. What houses of worship, what community centers, what things can you interact with if you're not looking to be in a 55 plus community. So those are some other things to consider as you're making that plan for a move. Need some more information or help with locating a great place to live? Just go to talkwithvince.com and fill out my contact form, and I'll be in touch. Or if you'd like, give me a call. My number is 863-220-8260, and I'd love to have a conversation. Number 6, access to transportation. A lot of this is going to depend on you and your lifestyle. If you like to drive, if you don't have a problem with driving, then it's not going to be as big of a worry as if you were looking for something that mirrors, like, and I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. I've got customers that have come from New York, and where they live in New York, whether it's the boroughs, Manhattan, wherever it is, where they happen to live, they walk everywhere, and they love it. They love to be able to walk everywhere. But that's not Florida. A good example of this is Orlando. Orlando is so spread out. It's like you have to travel 20 or 30 minutes to get anywhere in Orlando, and that's without traffic. With traffic, it's like an hour. And I know I'm exaggerating, but it really is. So, do you want to be someplace where you can walk wherever you want to walk? If you want to go to the grocery store, if you want to, do a little bit of, nighttime shopping or whatever the case may be, that's going to really change the dynamic of where we want to put you, because not everywhere in Florida is going to have that. And then you also have the added issue of places that have those types of situations tend to be higher priced because you're in town. And so if you're in town and out of the suburbs, you're looking at a higher cost for housing. And that goes back to what we talked about before. So, really pay attention to what it is you're looking for. Are you looking to walk someplace? Are you looking to catch a cab, an Uber? Are you looking at buses, trams, whatever it is? Make sure that if you're not wanting to drive and if you don't want to be in a car all the time and you want to just let somebody else do the driving for you, more or less what area you want to be in that affords you those opportunities. That brings us to number 7, recreation and lifestyle. So this can encompass many things. It can encompass things like shopping and having certain stores that you really want to frequent. And I'll give you a good example of this, and that is Costco. There are not a lot of Costco's around. If you're living in the Polk County area, you've got Sam's Club, but you don't have Costco. If you want to go to Costco's, you got to drive an hour to Brandon to get to Costco's. And there's a BJ's there too. But if you're in Polk County, you're not going to find a BJ's unless you go to Orlando, which is an hour away, or you go to Tampa, which is an hour away. And Costco's the same thing. And so, you want to look at what things in your lifestyle do you want to be close to. Most of the places that are around, aside from really lonely places, like out in Madison County up towards the county line, most of the places that are more suburban, you're going to find movie theaters and shopping and grocery and all of that stuff. You may not find a Costco, and you may have to drive for that. You're going to find nature trails, hiking trails, biking trails, because there's a ton of them all throughout the state. You're going to find pickleball courts and golf courses, driving ranges. All of those things are going to be in a lot of different places, but it also depends on where you're talking about. So the more secluded places, like I said, Madison County up in North Florida, probably not going to find as much as you would, say, in Hillsborough County, Orange County, Lake County, Osceola. Those places are going to have more of those kinds of activities because those places like Madison County tend to be a lot more rural. And even though Polk County is, well, it has been a very rural county over the last 10 or 15 years that I've lived here, and I've lived here since 1988. So I've lived here for a very long time. I've seen Polk County grow, and I've seen more other opportunities, business opportunities, come into the state and come into the county that have taken us away from that agriculture, citrus type of economy. And so there's a lot to be said for that, but you know, you want to make sure that your lifestyle is going to fit with whatever place you decide to live in. And if you're very active and you're looking for a lot of different challenges, you know, that's going to be something to consider. So whether it's hiking trails, biking trails, golfing, pickleball, whatever the case may be, make sure that the area that you're looking at, the city that you're looking at, the community that you're looking at has those activities so that you don't end up feeling like, man, what did I do? Now I have to drive 30 minutes to get to the things that I like to enjoy or the things that I like to do. Number 8 is a big one for a lot of folks moving to the state of Florida, and that is safety and security. Number 8 really is one of the first things that people ask me when it comes to them thinking about moving to the state. They're always asking me, how safe is this place? How safe is that place? The problem with asking how safe Tampa is, how safe Orlando is, how safe Pensacola or Miami is, the problem with that is in any given area, in any state in the United States, you're going to find places that you just don't want to be in, period. They're war zones, literal war zones. They're places where there's high crime. They're places where, that if you live there, you're going to have your car stolen or you're going to have your car broken into. Your house may get broken into. You might be accosted. There could be drug dealers in the neighborhood, all of that. But that's not the whole state. And that's usually certain areas. And so to determine that, as far as me as a realtor helping you with that, it's kind of tough because the United States government kind of clamped down on what I can tell somebody when they're moving into the area, whether they're local or whether they're not local. I can only say so much because they consider that steering. Back in the 50s and 60s, there were, of course, a lot of racial tensions, and there were a lot of really stupid people telling people that, don't move into that neighborhood because this type of person lives there. Well, that's illegal. We all know that that's illegal, but because of that, they have clamped down on what I can say to you as a buyer, as far as, helping you to determine whether or not you're looking at a war zone. Now, there are a couple of things that I tell people that you can do that will definitely help you. First of all, there is a website called Google Instant Street View. That's a fantastic website. You can put any address in that website, and it'll take you to a street view of the neighborhood. And then you can look around, kind of do your little virtual tour of the neighborhood and see whether or not, this is the kind of neighborhood you want to live in. That's a great first step. The second thing that you want to do is whatever county you're thinking of purchasing in, look up their sheriff's department and see if they have a website with crime data. If they have a crime map, then you've got it made because they're taking all of their information, putting it on that crime map, and now you can look at that crime map and determine, okay, this is a pretty safe neighborhood, or this is one that I want to stay away from. Now, if they don't have a crime map, then what you want to do, and this is really important, is you want to call the sheriff's record department. So you talk to somebody at the substation, any of the substations around where you're looking, and ask for the records department. And once you get the person on the records department, tell them, look, I'm looking at moving into the area. I've got an address, and I don't know what the crime situation is around that address. Can you please give me crime data for that area? And they will do it. You give them the address, give them a little bit of time. They'll email you a little bit of documentation, and you'll know exactly what's going on. So that's the second step in determining whether or not something is safe. Once you're there, talking to the locals, you'll know a little bit more. But those two steps will help you probably more than anything else I could tell you. All right, number 9, staying close to family and friends. Having support of family and friends when you retire can be really important, especially if you've got grandkids or friends that you haven't seen in ages and you want to hang with them. You want to be able to watch your grandkids grow up. You want to be able to stay with family or stay close to family. Those are all things that are big considerations. So as you're looking through this list of things that I'm giving you, think about, whether or not that's going to be important to you. Now, if you have family that's spread out, you've got kids in, 4 different states and grandkids in 3 different states, and you've got friends that are all over the map, that may not be as big a deal. You may have to make plans for, going to visit people once you're retired. That's okay. But if you've got family in a certain area, then you're going to want to go back through the list of the things that we've already covered and make sure that those things are available for you, or that those areas that your kids or grandkids or friends are in are going to work for you. Because the one thing you don't want to do is move just to be close to family and friends and then find out that the community is not going to work for you, or find out later that your family or your friends were already looking at moving away and now you're back to being by yourself. And I've seen that happen. I've actually seen that happen. So be careful with that. Make sure that where it is that you want to connect with and how far you're willing to travel if you don't want to be that close to them. And maybe you don't. Maybe you don't want to be right next door to, your kids and your grandkids. Maybe you want to have a little bit of distance. That's cool. But at the same time, know how far that distance is going to be and whether or not the housing market and the hospitals and healthcare and all of that's going to jive to make it a good fit for you. All right, so number 10 is basic quality of life. That can encompass a lot of things. So when you look at Florida overall, there are a lot of different areas in Florida that have just boomed. And I mean totally boomed, especially since 2019, 2020, 2021, especially during COVID. Everybody and their mother was moving into the state. And so you have areas that have become very congested, lots of traffic. You have areas that need a lot of tender loving care when it comes to roads. And you have areas like Tampa that I grew up in Tampa. Okay, I moved out of Tampa in 1988. They have been building in Tampa as far as the roads go. They have been upgrading the roads at 275 and I-4 for, I don't know, 40 years. And it seems like they never stop. And so there's always some kind of road construction going on in places like Tampa and Orlando. There's always, problems with choke points in Orlando at, let's see here, I-4 and 27. There's a choke point there that in the morning you can't go. And I know because my wife was having treatments, cancer treatments. By the way, she's good now. She's cool. She's healthy, thank God. But we were having to go to Advent Health in Orlando, and just to get from the on-ramp at 27 and I-4 past the exit ramp at Disney, which was only a quarter of the way. I mean, not even a quarter of the way to where we needed to be. It was just, a few miles. It would take us an hour sometimes. And so those choke points are going to be up in, they're going to be up in the Panhandle. They're going to be up in Tallahassee and Pensacola, all the big cities. They're going to be down in Miami and Palm Beach, especially in Tampa and Orlando. So you may want to, if that's something that you want to avoid, which, everywhere you go, you're going to find it, but that might be a reason to go with a smaller community. I know that where we live in Winter Haven has been really great, but it's starting to get choked up now. We're starting to see a lot more traffic, and we're hoping that the city planners will start to put together some projects to open things up so that we have better ways of traveling, so that we're not, constantly sitting in traffic. But our traffic is so much different than Tampa traffic, and our traffic's so much different than Orlando traffic, or traffic in Pensacola, or traffic in Tallahassee. So you have to really determine what you're willing to kind of put up with. I think the main thing is, if that's an issue, look at smaller communities or mid-sized communities like Lakeland or Winter Haven, Lake Hamilton, Lake Alfred in Polk County, or other communities out of the area that might be a little bit more conducive to a relaxed atmosphere without as much traffic. Again, pretty much the whole state, because of how people have moved here, it's going to be hard to find. I'm going to be real honest with you. That's going to be one that we'll have to research and really determine the best way to go with. But, we can do that. So if you've enjoyed this video, if you like what I'm putting out for you, make sure you like, share, subscribe, and click that little bell icon so you'll know when the next video comes up.